The Gypsy is a base class for the Pathfinder Roleplaying Game. She's a roguelike mage with divination powers that turn spellcasting into a card game. The development started with the idea to layer a card game inside of Pathfinder. We explored a few iterations and quickly discovered that a card game only felt like a natural part of the role-playing game when it was implemented as a primary class feature. At that point, we explored a few class concepts, and the Gypsy was by far the strongest. A card game creates a really loud mechanic, and we needed a class with equally loud flavor so that the mechanic wouldn't just overwhelm everything and make it feel like a detached system as opposed to a character. The Gypsy is the exact inverse, so we used her flavor to keep everything balanced. Fictional Gypsies use tarot cards, but the more we tried, the more we discovered that a tarot deck wasn't right for Pathfinder. To create a playable deck building game with meaningful choices, we needed to offer players dozens, if not hundreds, of competitive options. It was too much to ask players to learn that many new cards, learn effective deck management skills, and stay involved in the regular game all at the same time. So we took a huge shortcut and made the cards spells. Most players are already familiar with spells, so we effectively cut the number of new things we were asking players to learn from at least 30 to less than 10. To ensure that the Gypsy was balanced, we gradually went back after testing each successive iteration and introduced new class features that mitigated some of the issues that using spells in a card game creates. The biggest problem is lack of utility. Primary casters are expected to have utility, but drawing a utility spell can cost the Gypsy a lot of spells per day and usually isn't worth it. We mitigated this problem by giving the Gypsy independent utility with premonition, and later eliminated the problem with wands and archetypes. Another big problem is tactical positioning. Where a Gypsy needs to be on the battlefield changes with every flip of a card, so we went back and gave the Gypsy Wanderlust to help her adapt. We used auguries, the Gypsy's bi-level class choices, to shape the gameplay of the card game, but more importantly to allow players to shape it in a way that suits their playstyle. Auguries were designed so that players could use them to determine their own rules for how their deck behaves. These choices synergize with and inform spell choices. The goal was to allow for decks that play differently enough to create a complete deck building game within Pathfinder. So far, we've spent almost a year actively seeking player feedback, playing, watching, listening, talking. We've gathered as much information as we possibly could, and we've used that to fuel an iterative process to continue her development. It's already led to two really good changes. We lifted an augury tax, and we enabled the use of wands, which helped her cope with an exhausted deck, defensive spells, and utility spells. Plus, we were able to draw some great inspiration from the community, so that when we developed the Gypsy's expansion, we were able to design what players wanted based on how they were actually playing the class, and not just how we thought they would be playing the class. If you've played the Gypsy and you have any feedback you'd like to share with us, we're always starving for more, so don't hesitate to get in touch with us via the dreadfox.com feedback tab.